Isn't so? You keep saying Galar. Isn't that a town in Pokemon? Am I going mad?
Galar.
Galar.
That's a region. The Galar region.
It is, right?
It is a
set in the
region.
same. This is set in the same world. What if the dragons? What if the dragons were dragon-type Pokemon and the towns were wiped out by Pokemon who were tired of being subservient to humans? I don't know.
Whoa, is Dahl actually a Pokemon trainer? Confirmed?
Yeah, exactly, right? We've just blown it up. They're geniuses. Sorry, the narrative is amazing. I have to change my score now.
Oh goodness, Voltarian's mind is just his starter Pokemon.
Yeah, maybe that was Charizard.
Whoa!
What to tell you? This was a big, long-running plan for 2007 to make a bad game that's associated with the Pokemon game in like 10, 20, 15 years later. Genius!
Nintendo does it again.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, they're so big brain compared to us.
You threw my whole bit off.
I'm sorry. Just, it was bugging me earlier when you said Galar. I'm like, where do I know that from?
Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of everyone's favorite podcast, the Critical Arcade Podcast. I'm your co-host Nick.
And I'm Dave.
Yes. Hello Dave.
Hi Nick. How's it going?
I'm you're throwing me off. I was expecting are you well?
No, I got to mix it up. I got to mix these things up.
Of course. What's this? Episode 26, 25?
That's right.
We need to mix things up.
Exactly. Every 25th episode, you can expect something new.
Keeping the listeners on their toes.
Oh yeah. You never know what's going to happen. The madness.
But that's the thing. I mean, after 24, 25 episodes, you start to get into a rhythm of things.
You do.
Right? And then you need to just throw, not a wrench in the works, but you need to spice it up.
That's it, a little curveball here and there.
Yeah, are you well, Nick? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Are you
right.
good, Nick?
Ooh, completely different question. Needs a new answer, right?
Yes, 10,000 listeners. Thank you very much.
That's it, exactly.
This week, we've got a bit of a special game on our hands. I think this is the first time that neither of us have actually even heard of this game.
Like special in inverted commas, really, but yeah.
Right.
Like
Yes.
It's a special type of game.
Yeah, like special needs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's fundamental. That should be its genre, really.
How about you tell us what we played?
We played a game, like I said, I wonder if everybody heard it, called Dragon Blade. Now, you've got to say it in that voice because you can't just say Dragon Blade. That's just boring. It's Dragon Blade. For the Nintendo Wii, came out in 2007.
That is a long time ago.
A strange little tidbit: in Japan, it's just called Dragon Blade, but in the US and Europe, it had to be called Dragon Blade. Was it Wrath of Fire? I can't remember. Because there's actually a movie called Dragon Blade.
Didn't that come out like 8 years after this game?
Is that true? Did I not read? Maybe I read wrong.
No, I mean it could 100% be right, and the rights for the name Dragon Blade was sold just a very long time beforehand.
In my head, Dragon Blade sounds like it had to be like an 80s or 90s movie. So I could even picture somebody releasing a movie called Dragon Blade after 2007 because it's too old school and badass sounding name.
You spoke about this game being called Dragon Blade in Japan. I saw that as well, but in Japan they don't call it Dragon Blade.
Oh, what's it? You know its actual translation? What is it?
Yes, the Japanese really called it, in parentheses, they called this game Dragon Buraidu.
Hey! That sounds better.
It does sound a lot better. This week we played Dragon Buraidu.
Yeah, exactly. That works for me.
It was an experience.
Oh, yeah. Now, it was published by the publisher D3 Publisher, which was bugging me because I know I'd seen that name before.
Really? I've never heard of them.
You must have heard of the Puzzle Quest games. Yes, no?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
That's the same publisher, and they're those weird Earth Defense Force games. Have you seen any?
Oh, yeah.
Trailers
Is that... did they publish that?
Yeah, well, ants and like spiders are for some reason attacking Earth, and you've got to blow them up and stuff. Have you not seen it? It's Japanese, so it's army.
It sounds Japanese.
They're all pretty mental, but yeah, you get. And the Bullet Girl franchise, which is
what Bullet Girl franchise?
Yeah,
I've never heard of these things.
You've got to remember this is Japan. Now let me just Bullet
Okay.
Girl. It's like a paintball match, but the paint in the paintball pellets kind of degrade clothes as it goes on.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a very Japanese company we're talking about now.
Thank you, Japan. Bullet. That's like calling your game Gun Boy, and it's
Yeah,
it's ballroom dancing.
Yeah, it's certainly aimed at those adolescent teens that, you know, I want to play, but I like girls too, so let's combine it.
Sword Man. Or Dragon Blade.
Exactly.
Full circle.
They basically this is the type of game they seem to do throughout. Except for the Puzzle Quest games are actually quite good. I actually enjoy those games.
I've never played them, but this Dragon Blade game, unfortunately, I have played.
This game, you know, like the intro starts off so well. It's got like the 80s, 90s vibes. It's all like, yeah, you know,
Dragons
take down
war.
And you've got a big fiery blade. Like, it's a good start. And sadly, that was it for me.
Oh,
That said,
really? Oh.
narratively, I get it. Now, I don't know. I'm sure you wrote it down. It was penned by a guy called Richard A. Was it Richard A. Knock? I can't read my own handwriting.
Okay.
Who's supposed to be quite a prolific dragon series of books writer. Do you not
Dragon
read this?
books? No, I don't know this. I did some research on the narrative, but I don't know what it is you're talking about now.
It was supposed to be penned, like the narrative for this game was supposed to be penned by, let's say, a veteran in dragon stories. I can't remember the name.
Okay.
I know all his books had dragon in the name, so
Right.
like the Dragon Festival or the Heart of the Dragon
Right,
and stuff
he
like
clearly has a fetish.
that. Yeah, no doubt. He certainly knows what he likes. But then, this game's narrative... Like, what did you think? Maybe I'm being mean. I can be mean at times. Go on.
Well, if we're gonna start off divisive, then let's get that out of the way. I liked this narrative.
Okay, why? Out of curiosity.
I liked it. The intro video. This came from a time where games all had these chunky intro videos before you pressed start.
Yeah, it was long, right? It really was.
Yeah. So this intro video explained how the realms of dragon and man were apart, and dragon would look down upon how man would just constantly go to war. But then one dragon intervened, and then they had a time of peace. He had these kings who were confidants, and it was quite a prosperous time. But then these kings conspired and turned against him. You know this. The kings conspired and turned against him, and they defeated this dragon called, was it Voltarion?
Yes.
Right, Voltarion. And he got split into pieces, which is weird,
That's right.
but okay.
Like Horcruxes to some degree.
Horcruxes, yeah, that's perfect. Horcruxes. Yeah. And then one of these kings had a conscience and felt bad.
That's right.
So he took his part to a rundown town in the middle of nowhere called Galar, and he settled. But he hid his part of the dragon, which was supposed to be Voltarion's mind. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's this huge epic, I want to say. Yeah. These other kings, you know, they continue to rule, and they turned bad eventually. But the one king that went into exile, his last offspring, right, found this piece of Voltarion, his mind, which is quite conveniently a hilt.
Yes, that was handy. Yeah.
That he could fight with.
That's true. Yeah.
And so this guy, Dahl, he goes on this quest. Dahl.
What
just
name
Dahl.
is that, by the way? Dahl.
I know it's nothing. It is. It's 3 letters.
Yeah, go on.
It's like Joe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like their version of John Doe, just Dahl.
Right. Yeah. So this guy Bob goes on a quest to defeat these these evil kings, and what? Listen, it is silly. It is 80s, and I like it. I like it, Dave.
I know. It starts off well, like you said. That sounds like any other book you may have read as as a teen or an early adult. That's fine. It's got some gravitas to it.
Yes.
But for me, when you play out through the game, it's lost entirely. The gravitas. It's. And I don't know. I've written down here. Maybe I've watched too many things, and the whole losing parts of your soul and body and then regain them back to build a sword or a mystical shield or something like that. It's a cliche now, which I know I'm being mean because this game released in 2007. But I've read and seen so many things where the journey is to collect parts to build the ultimate weapon to fight evil.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets tiring. Now I know I might be being mean.
No, you're right. It does. It's just such a video gamey gimmick.
Yeah, it really is. And it started off like first of all, I don't know why the dragons sound like ointments. All the dragons sound like there's some sort of medicine.
What are you talking about?
Well, the last dragon is called Vormanax.
Vormanax.
For all your piles needs. I don't
apply to second-degree burns.
Yeah, exactly, right? And all of them are like, Voltarion.
Yes.
I don't know. For me, it sounded like I was going to the pharmacy every time I went to take on a bad guy. But I'm a strange dude.
I get it. You're right. It does sound like that. Except for Doll, which is just a bad name.
But I've just realised, do you think it was fun because backwards that's lad? And I don't know, maybe they were trying to break the wall somehow. With the,
yes.
Oh no.
But now I'm going to challenge you, what's Vormanax backwards?
Oh, wow. What is Vormanax backwards? Wait, I'm looking at the spelling now. I don't know, I can't say that backwards. Say that backwards.
We're not allowed to look at the spelling.
Axnam... Rov.
Zanrumnov.
Zanrumnov. That's better.
This bit is going nowhere.
So that's true. So the narrative reminded me of like 90s, 80s arcade. You know, when you put the quarter in, you're playing the game. You're not playing it for narrative. You're playing it for gameplay.
But
in my opinion, go on.
80s narrative arcade machine narrative. Is that a bad thing?
It depends what you're looking for, I suppose. Like I said, I've told you before, I'm very into narrative now as I've gotten older, so I guess I am a bit more stingy. But like, I used to play Time Crisis 2.
Good stuff.
Like, and complete it. And I like Jake, my brother and I used to play it a lot. And I would not be able to tell you the plot of that game. Even though I played it hundreds of times, I could not tell you the plot. Yeah. You're just shooting bad guys continuously. Yeah. And then you go to, like, the last level, it's this big robotic place where you just shoot the bad guy that's hanging on a crane type thing. But anyway, this is what I felt when playing this game. I felt that the story started off okay, and then I didn't really care as I played. But that sounds like it's just me.
I don't know what's the difference. I got totally invested. I liked it quite a lot. Yeah. No, I got invested in the character. In the first mission, right? Your town gets destroyed. Your fiance dies.
Yeah.
There's this shot.
I laugh not because that's funny. I laugh later on. I'll tell you why, but go on.
There's this shot at the end of the first mission. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Where the camera pans downward from the sunrise or the sunset, can't remember. And Dahl has just made like 30 graves.
That's right.
Of his entire village.
His village, yeah.
Dead. And he turns around with the look of determination and he walks into the valley. And I thought, hell yeah. I'm probably one of like 3% of people that got invested. But I thought, ooh, his town just his fiance is dead. He's out for revenge and justice.
Yeah,
I liked it.
The backstory's there. I'll give you the backstory's there. I'll give you I wasn't invested as much as you were, but either way, that's fine. But yeah, and another thing. Now, granted, I put this down as audio later.
Yeah.
When his fiance is killed, the drama there kind of had me cracking up because of the
because of Dahl wailing.
Yeah. It was. I was like, But then I got to remember. But then this game looks like it's from the 90s, but it's 2007. I keep thinking it's an older game than it is, but it's not. It is an old game, but it's not old.
It just looks bad. It does. This came out the same year. This was 2007, one of the best years in gaming.
Yeah,
this came out the same
really
year
was.
as BioShock, Portal, Halo 3.
Well, even for the Wii itself, had Super Mario Galaxy came out in that year. Which
Oh, the first one.
Yeah, the very first
Wow.
one. And what? No More Heroes and Fire Emblem Radiance. You know, they both. This is on the same console, and so the graphics were there, or you could at least push them further.
Yeah.
But this, like I said, we jumped in there. But the visuals of this game, what did you think?
The only thing I liked about the visuals were the quote-unquote vistas.
Yeah.
For a game of this caliber, vistas, it's not vistas that we get to like now. If you look across the horizon in, let's say, Forza Horizon 5, you can see the entirety of Mexico or whatever.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That
true.
looks good. That is good. But in this case, you can just, in the distance, see a castle, and throughout the level, you'll just be trudging towards this castle until you get to it. I thought, for a bad-looking Wii game, that was nice. That was the only thing I liked about the visuals of this game.
Yeah, same here. I've literally written down here, bland, bland, bland.
Three
Not
strikes.
my only note, but it's just even Dal, your character, he's generally like a generic fella, which is fine.
Lad.
The textures and stuff were just horrible. Like the walls and floor, and then the worst thing is that you then compare them to like there were those like concrete monoliths and stuff you could break and stuff like that.
Yes.
And they even had higher graphical fidelity than the ground and walls. So it looked like somebody copy and pasted like from one thing to another onto a generic land space.
That is unfortunate. Ugh, this game does look bad.
And the one thing, they just kept redoing the bad guys, but in different colours. Like the lizard men and the minotaurs. You know, you go up against a bunch of different people. Minotaurs, lizard men, bats, you know, the normal cave fare.
Even dogs.
Yeah, even
hounds.
And then later on, they come back again, but this one's now, I don't know, purple. Or this one's now green. To denote it's a bit more, you know, got a bit more life, or a little bit more faster than the other.
It's a bit more dangerous.
Yeah, but it just makes it boring.
I get it. It does make it boring. This game doesn't look good. It really doesn't. The only good things I do have to say about it is those vista shots during a level that I liked. It doesn't look good, but someone tried.
Yes, like I say, it's one of those stories where we say there's somewhere there that had some love.
Yeah, that one shot of him looking over his town's full graveyard and then just turning around. Come on.
That's burnt into your memory now. You'll
Come
never
on,
forget
it is this dumb game with the admittedly dumb narrative that I really like. Has this one shot that I really like. The rest is stupid.
It is. But I don't even say that as a bad thing, because if the escapism was there, a stupid story works.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always have to have a great story. A stupid story works.
Probably the best word to use in this case is campy.
Yeah, it is. It is very campy. But I'm trying to think of an example. What game's got like a really bad story, but you don't care because the gameplay's so great? I'm trying
the
to think.
gameplay is so great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Killer 7.
Oh, well, that's a push. The story there is pretty mental, if you can follow it. Hell, even if you just think like Stardew Valley, the story there is kind of just build up a farm and save the sprites and stuff. But
get a wife if you want one.
Yeah, the gameplay has more to it than the story. I know it's not the greatest
I get
example.
what you mean now. Yes. The gameplay takes center stage, and the rest, especially the story, does not.
No. And sadly, this doesn't have, in my opinion, any of that. Like, what did you think audio-wise? You're the audio guy. You've got all the background.
During gameplay, the audio, all of it sounded exactly the same. The music, in this case, it doesn't have voice acting, unless you count Dahl wailing when his fiance died.
Yes, that's right.
Which shouldn't be funny.
Yeah, it shouldn't. But for me, it was. But only it wasn't funny. But the way, like I said, it came across like an 80s, 90s game, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just a bit darker than you are in my comedy likings. but I found that bit to be a bit too. Like you said, it was a very dramatic scene.
Yeah.
And then their cries of despair were not as dramatic. It's like if you've seen you must have seen the laughing scene from Final Fantasy X.
Oh yeah, of course. Who hasn't seen that?
Yeah, that one. It had those same vibes for me.
Bad.
Not as bad as Final Fantasy X, I'll give you that.
No, I get it. But besides for that tiny instance of quote-unquote voice acting, the music had me confused. Because during the gameplay, you could hear music, but it all just sounded like generic epic score.mp3.
Yeah.
That is it for the entirety of the game. So I put off the game, I put on my headphones, and then I played the Dragon Blade Breath of Fire soundtrack.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and?
To my surprise, that entire soundtrack still just sounded like a generic epic orchestral
Shame,
score.
I was expecting something better than, because it does sound like somebody just write generic soundtrack for game, played it on Spotify, and then just let it go in there. Oh, shame.
I'm sure there's no, I'm sure there's someone that wrote this, but I mean, they must have been straight out of college.
You feel bad, don't you? As soon as you start saying something bad about something, you can picture the person who made it or wrote it or played it, and they're like, oh.
Oh, that's at the top of my resume. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I was really proud of that one. No, it is very generic. It's almost generic Japanese soundtrack.
Yes,
track 4. Just play it on this level or something like that. But it's not there. There's nothing that grabs you in it. It's a tool in regards to the gameplay. And
it really isn't.
The scenes you're playing.
It is bad. Listen, it's not good. There are good soundtracks. This isn't one of them. But it's not. We've played. I don't know how to say this. There's a certain game that I'm not going to mention that has a bad soundtrack. That it's bad. It makes me want to put off everything. It's bad. I can't say it now. But this isn't that game. I can tolerate this music. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, you can tolerate this music because you're concentrating on something else. You're concentrating on wielding the big sword throughout this whole thing, dodging, attacking, and blocking. You're not really listening to anything else. And to be honest, you're not really looking at the textures and the scenery. It's just we had to because it's part of our grading aspect too.
Yeah,
when we had to do a deeper dive than you normally would. This game is wielding a sword and defeating dragons, and
that is it. On a macro level, if you just look at everything with vague eyes or whatever, if you don't look in detail, you just look at the scenery with one eye, and then the music with one ear.
That's right.
If you just look at it like that, a bit of a less critical eye than we are right now, this game is fine.
Yeah.
It even comes together nicely.
Yeah, I agree. It's just we have to be more critical than the average user, so to speak.
Like the first real boss fight.
Yes.
The first real boss fight is underneath in this big cave.
Yeah.
On a bridge that a waterfall is pouring out on top of. Mm-hmm. Right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Is this king half dragon thing?
That's right. With
one of the first
claw.
Yes. Can't remember what his name was. I think it's something with a J.
Call him Joe.
Okay, Dahl versus Joe. King Joe. This is King Joe and he's half dragon.
That's right.
So he's Jogan.
Nice.
Which is a bit too close to Joe Rogan, so I'm not going to go there.
No, okay, that's true.
So it's Dahl versus Joe Rogan on top of this bridge with a waterfall. That package, right? Its parts are bad. The music, the gameplay, the visuals, it's bad. But together, it's almost like it's a bit more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it all comes together really nicely, and that I really liked. But if you strip it apart piece by piece, it falls apart really quickly.
It does. Yeah, no, it's very true. It's like eating food. You should never eat one part at a time. You eat it all together, and it's the same in regards to when you play a game. It's them coming together that's supposed to be the tastier morsel, so to speak.
Yes.
But like, I would love to tell you that the gameplay in this game was spot on and amazing.
Oh no, are we going to talk about the gameplay? Oh no.
it was the part that it needed to be strong but it, ladies and gents, it wasn't.
It wasn't. This gameplay makes me want to take a Dragon Blade to the face.
Yeah, the thing is, you got this big sword, and you're excited because it's kind of like a lightsaber, so that's always a win for me.
Yeah,
and you're thinking, oh yeah, and I got the Wii controls, so now I've got, you're getting your stance ready, you've loosened your shoulders up, you think you're gonna have some epic like fights with your badass flaming sword, and then first 5 minutes. You're like, oh, okay, that does that, and that does that, and it's a side swipe, and that's a stabbing move.
Oh, and I can combo for stronger attacks.
Yeah, exactly, and a combo meter comes up, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm a badass. And that lasts for maybe 5 minutes.
Maybe not even.
Until you're just waggling your wrist around in like a semicircle.
Yep.
And just like sitting on the sofa on your phone.
100%.
And that's all it comes down to in the end.
I played this, and when I tried to play it according to how the game wanted me to play, swipe left and right, and then stab forwards, it would miss every time, and I would die. The monsters would kill me. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I just reverted to, you're right, waggling the Wiimote.
That's it. That's all you can do. And I've got that little, on the Wiimote, you get that extra sensory package thing on the back, so it picks,
Wiimotion Plus.
Yeah, I got that and everything, so that's supposed to be better than vanilla Wii. But no, it was useless. It was just...
Really?
I just waggled my hand. You come up to it, I blocked every once in a while, and then I just waggled my hand, like some sort...
I don't have that Wii Motion Plus. No. I couldn't be get to get it now. It's 15 years later.
Yeah.
I thought that would have made the things a bit better, but you're saying you didn't?
No. It was just...
Come on.
It tries, like, the blocking mechanic kind of works, and the rolls out the way kind of works, but then when you try to do your epic stab and then you just flail it or just can't, you just wiggle it back and forwards. It won most of the fights for me, albeit a couple dodges and a couple blocks, but just wiggling it, which means you've lost all the fun. You've really that was your big ticket.
Yeah, that was exactly. Your big ticket item for gameplay. Motion controls,
and you're just waving it around like a little feather duster. Which, if anybody knows, that's a Monkey Island reference.
It's bad. No.
It tries because you unlock different dragon powers as you defeat the Dragon King dudes. Which was fun. Which is a good idea. Who doesn't like a bit of a weapon change up throughout play? Mm-hmm.
I liked it. The first dragon power. After I got that, it made things much easier.
Yeah, the claws, because they're the most powerful weapon you could get. Like, everything else you unlocked were worse than the claws, I swear.
What? Oh, okay. Even the whip. I thought the whip had quite some range.
The whip was alright. You got the fireballs or whatever from the head. You got the head part that could shoot fireballs. But apart from that, the claws used to almost one-shot almost everyone. The occasional bad guy and dragon you used to take down. And you get to take on some dragons. Taking on dragons was fun. Okay,
there are some parts of this gameplay, but like morsels. Just the tiniest bits.
Every single time I was just wiggling the thing around. It's like, dragon, run to it. Roll, wiggle, 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 roll out. Go back to it, roll, and then it's wiggle, like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That's right, it's like tickling a dragon to kill it. But that was my gameplay throughout the whole thing.
That's not fun.
And this was the only time I was very fortunate to know this game was short. It didn't take a long time to complete. It's like a bit of wiggling, like a few hours of wiggling. It was like going to the gym for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd have hated anybody to look through my window whilst I was playing it. Like, what is he doing? What kind of...
Whoa, calm down. I'm just wiggling.
Exactly. Should you... Close the windows, David. Stop wiggling in public. No,
you're right. The dragon magic makes it much, much easier.
Yeah.
Before that, I had to use my sword and the motion controls. That was...
No,
it didn't work, but you still needed to use the motion controls to use the dragon magic.
Yes, correct.
The claw, for example,
that's right.
It's the same controls. Swipe left, right, up, down, stab. You had those 5, and you still needed to somehow do those 5 to land attacks.
Correct.
But again, just wiggling would make sure that you do attacks, and that always works.
Yeah, I said it was almost the cheat code for this game.
Yeah.
All you had to do was which is boring. That's
It's
the
boring.
worst thing about it. It got so boring, and then
Yeah.
and the game itself is really linear. Every single part is you start from A and you go to B, and you just basically run. Sometimes you'll run up, and sometimes you'll run down, and sometimes you'll go into a little room with a little kill all the bad guys puzzle, which I find relatively pointless. And then the door opens, and then
That's all
it.
the puzzles. You can't even call that a puzzle. That's just
No, exactly.
tiny
Why
challenge.
is-
Kill them all.
Why do they even do the scene, the cinematic when the door closes? It's relatively pointless. It's just a room full of bad guys you'd have killed anyway.
This might be a stupid question, but have
Go
you
on.
ever played Final Fantasy 13?
Yes, I have. Of course I have. I played it throughout.
That game, I think is it the 10th or the 14th chapter that the world opens up?
Yes, really late. That's correct. There's like a...
Really late.
That's right.
But before that, what's it like? 30 hours of gameplay.
I'd say so, yeah. Very linear, right?
The game is probably the most linear game I've
It
ever
is.
played.
It is.
Just hallways upon hallways.
Yeah, really small hallways as well at that. But yeah, correct.
Yeah. Even this game, I felt, wasn't as linear as that.
Oh, whoa. That's, well, granted, I'm a Final Fantasy fanboy, so you got to be... you're right. I wouldn't say it was better than that, but anyway.
No, not better. Not better. That not better at all. Not as linear. There were
Okay.
the branching would be there'd be a couple of branches. Even on the third level, you're on some sort of beach.
That's right.
Even that had a couple of branches. I think I counted 6, 7 branches. Granted, it would not go far, but
No.
there were branches with enemies
true.
and certain power-ups.
Yeah, that's true. Granted, that is more than Final Fantasy 13 in the first 30 hours.
Yeah,
God,
linear is
It
still
is.
30 hours. It's that's insane.
That is
insane.
It is. But like that again, the gameplay again just screamed arcade cabinet machine.
Correct,
You know,
correct.
It's because of everything about it just screamed like this game shouldn't have been released on anything but an old arcade unit for you to waste your quarters on.
That's right.
Because everything about it, even the paths you took, the fighting mechanics, the graphics, the audio, all of it just screamed old school arcade, which wasn't fun.
No, but how would an arcade machine do motion controls?
Oh, that's a good question.
How?
No.
Like, would they have a
right.
sword peripheral attached with a cable or something?
Well, I remember there's that lightsaber arcade machine which made you use a joystick for blocking and parrying and moving. It's a weird segue, but I remember that did exist out there somewhere. But you're right, it probably wouldn't have worked
Really?
that well.
A joystick for the...
Yeah, you'd use a joystick
work?
to... It wasn't great. It's actually it's a really hard game. Like, it did not work. No, but yeah, this game, yeah, like I said, it sounds like you liked it more than me, let's put it that way.
I did, but it might have just been in the realm of guilty pleasure. You know,
Yes, yeah. We all
good
have
because
those.
it's bad.
Yes, we all have
And
those.
I liked parts of it, right? Playing or fighting rather, not so much. But if I could just walk along the beach, turn the camera left, and I could see just this old castle carved into the side of a mountain, that was nice. That was nice.
Sounds to me you need a holiday. Like you're enjoying the scenery in games.
Oh man, I guess you're right. Oh,
Instead of
geez.
going somewhere.
Save
But
me.
oh, on that note, Patreon. Let us go on holiday.
Subscribe
No.
to our page
No.
for this episode.
Yeah, that's from bonus episode. Sorry, just,
Yeah.
I joke. Did you find any problems in the game?
What do you mean, performance-wise?
Yeah.
Yes. We've been talking about these
I'm about to say,
problems
is
the
it
entire
the
time. The
is it
Wiimote,
the obvious
that's
one? That's right.
the obvious one in the room, the elephant. The Wiimote. That is a performance issue.
It's
It's part gameplay and part performance because the Wiimote is...
Yeah.
It's aged horribly.
It really has. I can't remember it being this bad. I know I haven't played the Wii in a long time. I actually had to dust it off and stuff for this episode, but I can't remember it being this bad. And it was bad. You know, maybe we're used to newer technology now, and you forget
That is
how
it.
bad it was in
That
the
is
day.
it.
But this was, yeah, like I said, just wiggle at a dragon and it killed it. That was basically the gameplay.
We're a bit used to... we've both... Ladies and gents, we've both got a Switch. So I think we're used to the Joy-Cons motion.
It's true.
in Breath of the Wild, there are these motion shrines, right, where you have to use the controllers, the Joy-Cons rather, to control. I can't even remember. This was so long ago. But anyway, motion controls have come a long way.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's very apparent if you play a game like this.
Well, I also had some camera issues as well. I know I'm always barking on about the camera, but that same vista where you took on the dragon with the waterfalls, a lot of the time my camera would go behind the waterfall. And so now my screen was like blue and fuzzy until I moved outside of the waterfall, which, yeah, again, I'm nitpicking.
That never happened to me.
I'm nitpicking because that's kind of, I guess, realism. If you go that way, then the camera goes into the water. I can understand it to some degree, but it was hard to see him because he was kind of like, he had a purpley bluish hue himself. So it was relatively hard to distinguish. But I'm being fussy. The camera was okay, but it had its moments where it bugged me.
I can imagine that. There were quite a few times where I would hit... I guess it was on this boss. Yeah, the camera was a nuisance as well. I would hit the boss into a corner, and then before my combo ends, he would zip past behind me.
That's right.
But then I would just be stuck in animation locking, slicing this corner with nothing in it. And then it would take so long for me to turn the camera that he would have landed a couple of hits.
A couple of hits already. Yeah, no. I think I had the same issue.
So yeah, the camera as well. That was bad.
It was problematic. The whole thing was, like I said, it doesn't play like a 2007 game. That's fundamentally its big problem for me.
No, what I've got here in the next section, value for money, is this didn't play like a 2007 game. This played like, it's almost like this came out 5 years too late. This would have been a great game on the PS2.
Yeah, no, I agree. It sits that generation perfectly. Just not.
Yeah.
I can't get over Super Mario Galaxy came out at the same time. You know, if you think how well that's done, and even with the control scheme and the graphics and everything that comes with it. But now we know that Nintendo are the big boys, and you can't hugely compare them versus, say, a third-party company. But it's hard not to think that they did what they did, and this bland, boring.
It is hard not to compare.
But yeah, it's like I said, value for money wise, could you find it? I could only find it secondhand, like on eBay and the likes.
Same, and then it was still $15.
Yeah, so I said it wasn't worth it unless it was free. I literally wrote that down.
What I've got here is this. The motion controls, it aged horribly. It's bad. If somehow this game could have been played without it, it would have been a great time. But
yeah, that's true.
I have got here that it is a nice nostalgia hit. If you're looking for a PS2 era game of a grand adventure.
That's a niche. If you're looking for a PlayStation 2 game to play on the Wii, that's quite a niche market.
It is, but that's a passionate market right there.
No, I'll give you that.
If you're looking for something like that with something you haven't experienced, this is it. But the motion controls, that's quite the gatekeeper.
Yeah. It's like I said, if there are people out there who do want to wiggle at dragons, then this is definitely the game for you. No, they exist.
And then keep on wiggling.
Go wiggle to your heart's content. Just wiggle at those dragons. No, like I said, there's an audience there somewhere.
I heard. Who did you say penned this game? Who wrote this?
Okay, this was a gentleman called Richard A. Knack or Knock. I can't read my own handwriting.
If I heard or read that this game was inspired by Christopher Paolini's Eragon series.
I actually did have those vibes a little bit when I was playing it, but that's only ever so slightly. Mainly because it probably had a dragon in it.
that could definitely have been it, but
it.
Not only like Paolini's what's it called, Inheritance Cycle, but get this, Richard Wagner's operas.
What?
Yeah, Richard Wagner's operas, the Ring operas.
Yeah,
they got written, what's it, 130 years ago at this point?
Yeah, and they were supposed to be inspiration for this game?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
Right?
I can't say that came through. I guess the beginning, as it's the.
I don't know if it's an inspiration, but it's big. There are big similarities.
That's funny.
The epic nature. The somehow the story spans generations.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, I give you.
It's one man just defying the odds, and
that's cool. Wow, great. That's special. Like, even to associate those with this game is pretty out there, but. All right,
it really is.
It's good inspiration. I'll give you that. If you're going to source something,
this game we've never heard of.
No, exactly. Wow. Okay.
It is something else. But I thought that was a point that I needed to raise.
That's true.
It's very good. I like that a lot.
That's true.
Okay, Dragon Blade Wrath of Fire. I just can't get it out of my mind that this game really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, this was yeah, it's true. It was just one of those ones that just no one even... It didn't even have a publicity to it, to my knowledge.
No.
Just all of a sudden it's on the shelf, yeah.
Parts of this game charmed me really well. Mm-hmm. But I mean, those were some small parts.
But yeah, far smaller for me by the sound of things. But yeah, I can understand it. I can understand if it hits your genre, and I know you're a big fantasy guy anyway, aren't you, with Dungeons and Dragons and the like. So I can imagine this tickled your.
It really did. It really did.
Tickled your senses.
It got that D&D Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. Vibe.
And I liked it quite a lot.
Yeah. Now, if this was like a Star Wars themed, I'd probably be the same.
Totally. Our points for Dragon Blade Wrath of Fire. We gathered some points. These points then decided to overthrow us and rule the kingdom for a couple of millennia. Eventually, one of these points settled down in the town of Galar.
Isn't so? You keep saying Galar. Isn't that a town in Pokemon? Am I going mad?
Galar. That's a region. The Galar region.
It is, right?
It is a region.
This is set in the same world. What if the dragons? What if the dragons were dragon-type Pokemon and the towns were wiped out by Pokemon who were tired of being subservient to humans? I don't know.
Whoa, is Dahl actually a Pokemon trainer? Confirmed?
Yeah, exactly, right? We've just blown it up. They're geniuses. Sorry, the narrative is amazing. I have to change my score now.
Oh goodness, Voltarian's mind is just his starter Pokemon.
Yeah, maybe that was Charizard.
Oh. Whoa!
What to tell you? This was a big, long-running plan for 2007 to make a bad game that's associated with the Pokemon game in like 10, 20, 15 years later. Genius!
Nintendo does it again.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, they're so big brain compared to us.
You threw my whole bit off.
I'm sorry. Just, it was bugging me earlier when you said Galar. I'm like, where do I know that from?
No, you're right. I was getting at the points culminated over millennia into a D-.
Yes, it did.
A D-, which I don't know how I feel about that D-. That is inches away from an F.
Yeah, that's a good grade for me. That's like almost D-. That's what else do we have for D-?
No, I don't know. I think this is our first D-.
That's our first D-. Yeah, it is our first D-.
This is inches away from Digimon World and Bad Boys Mammy Takedown.
That's true. Which he can keep his head up high a little bit against those games, because only ever so slightly.
That's only because I like that shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Him burying his town. If it weren't for that shot, this would have been a hard.
That's right. It's a good job that they got you in the feels on that one.
Yeah. All right, thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the Critical Arcade podcast. If you'd like to find out more, you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram, which we've finally gotten up and running.
Slowly, yes. Slowly getting momentum. Yeah,
Go check out our Instagram page for more updates and cool Critical Arcade pics and outtakes. If you want to chat, send us an email at nick@criticalarcade.com.
And at dave@criticalarcade.com.
Yes, but besides for our emails, Dave, where can we follow you?
You can try following me out and about, but this time around I actually do have my Wii Remote with me. And I will follow you and just wiggle it around in your face wherever you're going shopping, or if you're at the doctor's, you're just going to have me there, just wiggling it in your face.
Wiggling.
And just always wiggling. It doesn't matter what you're doing when you're at home, in bed with your wife. I'm just going to be wiggling it in your face, and it's just going to be like that for at least, say, 48 hours.
Yeah.
I know it's weird, but you don't want that.
No, it's not. It's not.
You
They
don't
want
want that.
to follow you.
You don't want me to do that.
These are the consequences.
Exactly. So that's what will happen. So think twice.
You can have Dave wiggle his Wiimote in your face, or you can support us on Patreon for exclusive content, where you can find bonus episodes each week of us just talking about games. Right? You think this is enough games? Not even close. We'll talk about even more games.
Yeah, this is
each
even
week.
close. Yeah, exactly.
And you can also check out our paid show, Critical Cinema, where we do exactly this structure for Critical Arcade, but for movies each week.
Yeah, and we get to make fun of Nick because he's not watched barely any movies, so I enjoy just making fun of him because I only just made him watch Die Hard, ladies and gents. He's only just watched Die Hard. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. Exactly.
You're right. Okay, you're right. I haven't watched a ton of movies, so this is going to be going to be filling gaps in my childhood.
It's an education. Yeah, exactly.
It is education. I've not watched Jaws, Godfather, E.T.
Stop angering me on the podcast.
I'm sorry, but we've got Critical Cinema. That's going to rectify all of this.
Exactly. Listen to Critical Cinema. Damn, you haven't watched E.T., Jaws. What's going on?
I'm sorry. Okay. Dave,
sorry is the only thing you can say. Okay, anyway.
What's next week's episode?
Next week we're playing a GameCube classic to some degree. It was well received. Wario World. You know, where it takes on the kind of like the Mario 64 genre, but gives it to Wario, and on the GameCube. And it's actually supposed to be quite good, so I look forward to jumping into that one.
I've heard the same. Anyway, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Critical Arcade Podcast. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.